Hi, I'm Deidre Berger, Director of the AJC Berlin Ramer Institute for German-Jewish Relations. Welcome to another edition of AJC Berlin's Three Questions. We are here today with Alison Smale, Berlin Bureau Chief of the New York Times, who spent a lot of time reporting from capitals around Europe, most recently in Paris. She was Executive Editor of the International Herald Tribune. And we would like to talk with her about the new emerging government here in Berlin and the impact this will have in Europe and on foreign policy. Alison, you've been watching this coalition come together, not so easily. Do you think that this will have any sort of impact on the perception of Germany and Europe? Germany's played a major role dealing with the financial crisis. Will this change any policies?
I think there's absolutely no indication that Germany will suddenly play a minor role in that. Its role will continue to be major. With the presence of the Social Democrats in the government, assuming that the current talks do result in a final agreement that is approved by the Social Democratic Party membership, presumably will give some of the people who've been calling for more social measures, more welfare measures, to alleviate the hardship, particularly in southern Europe. At least that will, I think, sort of assuage the perception that those are not even concerns that are voiced. I think that's a wrong perception, by the way. I do think that Chancellor Merkel, however much she may have argued for austerity, has also been very aware of social impacts, and she is particularly concerned with the youth, and she has actually made a point of stressing youth unemployment as one of the things that have to be combated. A Franco-German effort, actually. I mean, the first meeting was held in Berlin in July. A follow-up meeting is coming this autumn in France. So the new coalition certainly has a big part to play in Europe, and there is the possibility that we will see a slight change in the perception of Germany, which, to be fair, has argued for austerity, but also for the need for global competitiveness as a reason for structural reform. And yes, the Germans themselves are frugal, but they too will be spending more on solving perceived problems at home.
Germany, as we've seen through this fiscal crisis, is not only an economic power, but more and more a political power, and feels very much, when one is in Berlin, to be in the center of Europe. Will there also be changes, perhaps, in foreign policy as a result of a new government between the Christian Democrats and the Social Democrats?
I think one argument is that because Francois Hollande is a socialist, and there will be Social Democrats in this new government, that maybe that eases the tensions that we have seen somewhat in the Franco-German relationship. I mean, I think Franco-German relations are pretty solid, and it's a very important component of European and global affairs. Otherwise, obviously, there's going to be somewhat of an impact of the current scandal over the alleged tapping of Chancellor Merkel's cell phone. I think we will see on a government level German-American relations will continue. Whether there is a measure of sort of personal trust lost that will just remain that way, but not actually affect the conduct of government business, I think it's too early to tell. I think there is a possibility that the popular perception of the United States here in Germany will suffer more lasting damage, but a lot depends on what we see unfold.
When President Obama picks up his telephone, does he call Paris or Berlin first?
First, I honestly don't know. I think it would depend what he's dealing with. If it's an economic matter, I would think that he would call Germany first. But whether that's a call that he places to Berlin or to Mario Draghi in Frankfurt, I don't know. And if it was a matter of military cooperation, it would be much more likely to be Paris first.
And so today, looking at the point in time where Germany and France do cooperate closely, but there is a shift to Eastern Europe in some ways, what impact is this having in Europe in terms of Germany's voice on the international stage?
Well, I think Germany has made it very clear that there are affairs which matter a great deal to it. Among them is the fate of places like Ukraine, former Soviet republics which are now independent countries and are sort of being tugged between Moscow and the West. I don't think you will ever see a complete resolution of those two tugs because they are just logical from history and from geographical position. But what we do know too is that for Poland it's very important to feel that the Ukraine is a place that is not necessarily under Russia's complete sway. And what we will see now going towards the end of November and the European summit in Vilnius in Lithuania is the sort of end spurt of this tug in different directions. And the Germans have played a very important role. They are prepared to offer medical treatment to Tymoshenko, which would give the Ukrainians presumably the way of allowing her release, which is something that is blocking Ukraine's access to more European partnership.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today with another edition of 3 Questions. Please join us at ajc.org and join us on Twitter, ajcglobal.org, and on Facebook. See you soon for another edition, and thanks to Alison Smale for being with us.
Pleasure.